There's a few ways to write the equation of a line, and the main two that we use are gradient intercept form and general or standard form. Gradient intercept form is written so you can just read off the gradient and the y-intercept where the line cuts through the y-axis. The number in front of the x here is the gradient, and the number out the end here is where it cuts through the y-axis. For example, if you have y equals 2x plus 3, the gradient is 2, and it cuts through the y-axis at 3. So it's nice to have lines written in that form because you can straight away read off what the gradient and y-intercept are, and that tells you a lot about the line and also helps you sketch it. But sometimes we need to write lines in general form or standard form. And that means basically that everything's on one side of the equation and 0 is on the other. Now, normally put everything on the left-hand side, like I've done, the left-hand side, and put 0 on the right-hand side. And normally, this is the normal way you would do it. You'd have the x term first, then the y term, and then just the plain old number by itself. There's a few other things that are just normal, the way to do things, conventional, if you like. The number in front of the x is normally a positive number. So even though it would be in general form, if it wasn't, you try to be reasonable and change it to a positive number. Secondly, these three numbers here should be whole numbers. So we multiply by denominators and get rid of fractions. So general form, ax plus by plus c equals 0. So let's change from general form into standard form. There might be 3 steps that you could follow. First of all, get rid of any fractions. Second, get everything onto the left-hand side. But then, of course, some things could be negative that you don't want. So we make the x coefficient be positive. So let's do that with this one. This one's in gradient intercept form at the moment, where the gradient's 3 and cuts through the y-axis at -2. But we want to write it in general form. I'm just going to follow this without taking any shortcuts. I'm going to say get rid of fractions. Well, there aren't any, so that's great. Nothing to do there. Get everything on the left-hand side, which means I need to get rid of this 3x, so I've got a minus 3x off both sides, and get rid of this -2, so I've got a +2 onto both sides. So I'll do that. I'll have minus 3x plus y and +2 equals 0. All I did was got rid of the 3x minus 2 from the right-hand side by doing the opposite operations. And they appear over here with their opposite signs, obviously, and it equals to 0. That's great. There's one last thing that I'd like to do, and that's make the coefficient of x positive. Make the x coefficient positive. Well, at the moment it's negative, so I can just change all the signs. Now that's equivalent to multiplying by -1 or dividing by -1. Multiplying everything by -1. You can just change all the signs in an equation whenever you want to, as long as you change them all. So I'm going to change all the signs here. I've got 3x minus y minus 2 equals 0. That there would be written in general or standard form in the most conventional, most acceptable way. This here, that'd be acceptable, but that's what we're after. Okay, first step, when we change this one that's in gradient intercept form into standard or general form, we need to get rid of the fractions. So since there's a 2 on the bottom here, I'm going to double everything. Multiply everything by 2, that will get rid of that. So I get 2y equals minus x plus 10. So step 1, I've got rid of any fractions. Now get everything on the left-hand side, which means I've got to add x on and take 10 off. So I get a plus x, my 2y is still there, and I take 10 off. Finally, make the x coefficient positive. Oh, it is. Remember, coefficient means the number in front of the x. So here, it turned out to be negative, -3, so I had to make it positive by changing all the signs. But here, The coefficient of the x is a 1 and it's already positive. So I can just leave that alone. That's written in general or standard form. What about changing from general or standard form into gradient intercept form? Well, we simply need to make y the subject of the equation. So we need y by itself on the left-hand side. That's what it means to make something the subject of the equation. Not minus y by itself on the left-hand side of the equation. So we do all those normal steps of equation solving in order to make that happen. We do opposite operations to both sides. For example, I want to get y by itself over here on the left-hand side. Well, there's minus 3 y's there. I'm going to leave them alone for the time being. And I can get rid of everything else that's over there. Get rid of the 2x and get rid of the plus 4. I don't want them on the left because I want y and only y by itself on the left. So I'm going to minus 2x to get rid of that 2x. And I'm going to minus 4 off both sides of this equation, which is going to leave me with my minus 3y. It was there before, and it's still there. But 2x minus 2x, gone. 4 minus 4, gone. 0 minus 2x and minus 4. All right, so now I've nearly got the y by itself on the left-hand side. It's been multiplied by minus 3, so if I divide everything by minus 3, I'll have the y by itself on the left-hand side. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to divide by minus 3, right? Divide this by minus 3 and divide this by minus 3. Or should I say negative 3? Well, this will just be y, and this will be 2 over 3x plus 4 over 3. Because if you divide a negative by a negative, you get a positive. A negative divided by a negative gets a positive. And now it's written in gradient intercept form. The gradient is 2 over 3, which means you go up 2 for every 3 across, or up 2/3 for every 1 across. And it cuts through the y-axis at 4 over 3, 1 1/3 on the y-axis. Let's do another one where we change from general form or standard form into gradient intercept form. I'm going to leave the 4y alone on the left. I want the y to be there by itself. And I'm going to get rid of this 5x and this minus 7. Well, I need to minus off the 5x. I need to plus on a 7 onto both sides of the equation, because that's opposite operations. So I will end up with my 4y being left by itself and minus 5x and plus 7. Now, just to get the y by itself as the subject of the equation, not minus y, I need to divide by 4 because the y is being multiplied by 4. So I divide both sides of the equation by 4, make everything 4 times smaller as such. So this divided by 4 will just leave me with y, and this would be minus 5 divided by 4 times x plus 7 divided by 4. That's written now in gradient intercept form. This line, it may have been hard to see, but I can see easily in here that it's got a negative gradient, so it runs down that way across the number plane. Negative 5 on 4 is the gradient, and it cuts through the y-axis at 7 on 4.